All right, my friends. Again, I'm Anna Marie from Just Stamp. So glad you're here today. We are diving into the Charming Day bundle. It's a very pretty stamp set and die set, and yay, there's coordinating paper. Love that about Stampin' Up. Card number 1. Let's see what I've got for you. It is a celebration card. Here we go. You can see how soft and pretty it is. Birthdays, milestones, or just a charming day, this card would make their day. We're going to do some watercoloring. In fact, this is pretty simple. It's still a pretty card, but it's perfect if you're just getting started into card making. It requires very few tools and supplies. So let me show you what I'm using. We've got our card base, which is a pretty pink cardstock color. This is a standard card size. It's 8.5 by 5.5. I scored it right up the middle at 4 1/4. This is going to be a vertical orientation. Here's that coordinating paper I mentioned. I think it's called Lovely Florals. Sorry, I should have got the name correct for you. There are beautiful patterns to coordinate with the stamp set. There are florals on one side and just either watercolors or graphics on the second side. Now this piece, I'm just going to lay it flat. I'm going to use my favorite adhesive, Tombow liquid glue. And you can see how little I placed. And I place it far, about 1/4 inch from the edge of the paper. That's because I don't want it to ooze out when I apply the pressure to make it stick. So, and making it stick, it's called burnishing, so I'm going to burnish that down. I do have a special tool I can use if I want, my bone folder. There's our first layer. Now our second layer happens to be sort of like a banner, and look, it's the flip side of this pattern paper. It's a very pretty green called Mossy Meadow. I'm going to make a little banner cut just with some paper snips, so that's going to be another one of your basic tools. And I'm going to go up, I'm going to find the center. You could measure, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to go up about 1/4 inch, snip it, and then I'm going to make the angle cut up to that snip. So it's like this, so on both sides. So I try to get that paper, the edge of the paper in deep on the paper snip so I can do just one cut. And there you go, there's our banner. How easy was that? Again, very few tools needed on this card. That's why it's perfect for the beginner. You don't have to invest a lot to get started on this kind of a card, yet it's still sweet and simple. All right, now our focal point comes from the stamp set. We are going to be using that beautiful spray of flowers, and we're going to use the happy birthday sentiment. So let's bring in what we need here. I'm going to need a scrap piece of basic white paper. We're going to stamp that floral spray. This requires a bigger block. This is block E, and we are just using black ink. It's called Tuxedo Black. And when I have a big stamp, I like to flip it over. Rather than try and ink up this way, I have a little bit more control when I can see the stamp itself, the red rubber, and I'm just going to tap and apply my ink. Then I'm going to stamp down, apply some pressure, and there, look at that. How pretty is that? Now we're going to color this with ink pads. We're going to take the color from the Petal Pink ink pad in the Mossy Meadow, and if I open this up, flip it over, I've got my ink there, and I'm going to grab the ink from the pad and color. I have a special brush. It's a watercolor brush with a little cylinder with water in it. I'm going to flip that open, and how I'm going to grab the ink, I'm going to use an extra block and just kind of smush it in to the ink pad, and you can see I'm grabbing some ink from there. I'm going to bring in my watercolor brush. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of the water right onto the block and blend it up. It makes it a little bit watery. There's definitely a wet texture to it. And then I'm going to go lightly onto my image. And this is watercoloring, so you don't have to be precise on your placement. You don't have to color right up to the edge. And you can see how light this is. That's my first layer. I am going to add some dimension to it. I'm going to come back in and add a little bit more color on some of the shadowy areas, or what should be shadowy areas. Now again, the trick to the watercoloring is to use the water. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to spread your color around on the paper. Now there is a balance. You don't want to apply too much water because your paper will get kind of soggy, and the ink that we stamped with is a water-based ink as well, so it will kind of mix with the color we're laying down. So just be careful on applying too much moisture. So there's my soft coloring. Now I want to add a little bit more color in those shadowy areas, so I'm going to pick up more ink and just kind of come in and stroke right where I think the leaf would have some texture to it or some dimension. And you can see I'm just going to bring in, I'm not applying too much. I don't want to go overboard, which is another tip. Apply the color in layers. You can always add more, but you can't go back once you've laid too much down. So I'm just going to bring in. So this quote beginner card, so far we've just used some ink pads. You need a watercolor brush, and whether you have the special brush like I do with the water in the cylinder, that's helpful for me, but you can always just use your little source of water, a cup or a bowl, and bring it in from there. So you can see how I'm just adding a tiny, tiny bit, bringing in the dimension, and I'm kind of happy with that. You can see I have darker areas, very simple, and it doesn't take long. I am not one to use too much time on coloring. You could be an artist. Now, I'm going to show you what I got on the side off the camera here. I just have a paper towel where I'm cleaning my brush. I'm just kind of squeezing a little drop of water to get that green out of there, because we are next going to go to the light ink, which is called Pretty in Pink. Let me see if I can keep myself organized over here. All right, so again, I'm going to open up the ink pad. I'm going to take that same block. I did clean it off, so it's a clean block, and I'm going to press into the ink. So for the Pretty in Pink, I might grab a little bit more ink since it is so light. And I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to squeeze my watercolor brush, get some water in there. If you don't have the special brush, just get some water straight out of the cup or bowl. And again, I'm going to go light overall. So this is a pretty soft pink flower. What colors speak celebration to you? Are they soft? Are they rich colors? Are they bold? What do you prefer on birthday cards and celebration cards? This one definitely is going with the color scheme of the pattern paper. And you can see, I'm just going to go in here and I'm applying layers. I'm going to be really careful where there's more ink. I want to make sure that that black ink is dry so my pink won't smudge. And again, and I'm going to do the same technique I did with the green. I'm going to come back in with a little bit darker color. Again, I'm not too fussy about hitting all the areas up to the line. It's a soft watercolor technique. I do want to come out and define some of the petals. Just a little bit more color. So again, this Charming Day bundle, it has a coordinating die set. On this particular card, if you are a beginner, you could get away without the dies. We're going to do some hand snipping, so nothing wrong with cutting, and it's fairly quick and simple. There we go. I'm happy with that. Not a lot of color laid down. It's a very soft floral. And I could continue adding a little bit more shadow in some areas to pick up more pink. It's your prerogative, whatever your style is. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to put that away. Try to keep this tidy. All right. And let me show you. Again, this does have the coordinating dies on the flip side, and one of the dies will cut this spray of flowers. So if you have a mini stamp and cut and emboss machine, you can use the die. If you don't have that yet, snip. And I try to bring my paper down a little bit more manageable size, and I'm just going to open my scissors and move the paper and go all the way around. And I'm just kind of turning the paper. I'm going to get a nice outline on my image, trying to stay on camera for you. There we go. So you get the drift, right? Let's see. I think I have one, which I have already cut. I'm going to bring that in. This is going to be placed onto our card front, and I'm going to use the special adhesive called Dimensionals. Let me grab some Dimensionals. I have two sizes. I have a standard size and I have a mini size. I'm going to use the standard size. This is a fairly large layer, so I can use the bigger Dimensionals. They come straight off the sheet. They're sticky on one side and they have a covering on the other. If you're familiar with the Dimensionals, they're a favorite. They bring dimension to your project. Now I'm just going to take off that protective layer and stick it onto my card front, sort of at an angle, not too precise. No two cards are going to be exactly the same, which is fine. Let's put our greeting on there, which in this case happens to be happy birthday. Very simple. Black ink. This comes from the stamp set. It's the happy birthday, and I've already stuck it on the block. I like to have a block that's sort of the size of the stamp. You don't want to go too large. That just becomes cumbersome, and yet you don't want it too small because you won't get your entire image. Now I'm just going to try and go straight on this card piece. It's about 5/8 of an inch wide, and there you go. So I'm going to trim that down. Bring back my paper snips. And I like to cut at a slight angle. Again, this is your style, your card, so you could just leave a straight cut. You could do the little dovetails, the ribbon edge. And let's bring in our card. We're going to apply our sentiment right up here. And because this is already elevated with a dimensional, I'm going to add a dimensional. It's going to be even. I'm going to add the dimensional on the right, and on the left side where it's going to lay atop that area that's already raised, I'm just going to add a drop of liquid glue. Let's see how we're doing. Yep. Look at that, literally a tiny drop. We just want it to adhere. I'm going to bring this in. I want it to extend off the card slightly, sort of like to bring all the layers in together. There we go. What do you think? I like how the card's coming along. Now the last step is going to be the embellishments. Sort of like when you're getting dressed, you always add your jewelry last. And for this, I have these pretty little pearls. They're called antique pearls. and they come on a sheet with different sizes. I'm going to grab, let's see, I've got a tool I like to use. Now you don't have to have this tool, just use your fingernails or your paper snips. I'm going to grab one of the larger ones, and I'm going to place it right up here, and then I'll get another larger. These are actually the middle size, and I'm going to come in and bring it just around there underneath the birthday, and then one more. Embellishments are always nice in 3s. You don't have to stick with that, but it's a good guide. Now I'm going to put my embellishments back. Let's talk about the inside of the card, because of course it's just as important. Put those over there, trying to keep my area tidy so I don't lose things. So inside I have a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to decorate it with a little strip of that pattern paper, and I'm doing little. It's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. I'm just going to come in and put a little strip right across the paper. It kind of unifies the whole look. This is a smaller insert. If you like the larger, by all means, you could do a 4 by 5 1/4 inch insert. This one's smaller, about the size of the patterned layer, so that would be 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. And obviously that's too long. Let's go ahead and snip it. All right, so this is very easy way to complete your card. You want the inside to look just as nice as the outside. This, you could then write or stamp a greeting on the inside, and of course make a little note. There we go. And let's go all out on this one. We'll make the matching pair. So I've just taken a little scrap of that pattern paper. Here's my nice envelope, and what I'm going to do is apply some adhesive to the envelope flap just around the perimeter, the border. And you can see, I mean, I'm talking just the tiniest amount of liquid glue. I'm going to bring in my scrap, and I want to make sure it's right orientation for when it folds down. I'm happy with that. I'm going to come up almost right to that fold and press down. Now I'm going to say some people like the rectangular shape to their flap. I kind of like to go with the shape of the envelope flap. So all I do is take my paper snips, use the flap as my guide to come around and trim off the excess. The coordinating envelope just takes your little project up to the next level. Oh, hello, Debbie Penn. So happy that you are here this morning. We're making some very pretty cards for connection with the Charming Day bundle. Look how sweet that looks. Happy birthday. This is sweet and simple, and so it's great if you're just getting started and don't have a lot of tools. There you go. Have any birthdays on your list coming up? All right. Card number 2. Let's keep going. Now I mentioned that die set that coordinates with the stamp set. Look how pretty it is. All right, so we've got the coordinating paper going on and the die set that has these extra dies. You can create your card just with those dies, and that's exactly what I've done. I've taken that floral flower on a stem, and I've die cut it twice. I've die cut it in the green color, and then I added the color of the flower, and then just snipped the stem. So I'll show you how I did that. Very pretty. I love the sentiment. Thanks for being you. It's perfect for a neighbor, a friend, or anyone that you want to show up for. These die cuts make it really easy to produce. So let's get started. This card has a very neutral card base. It's called Basic Beige. It's the standard size. I'm going to take my foam folder, which has disappeared. How does that happen? Let's clean up. There we go. Slipped right under my glass mat. Okay. These stamps are just beautiful, don't you think? There we go. Standard card size. Again, I've got some of the pattern paper. This is another pattern that's in the package. The flip side is a pretty peacock pattern, which is the little leaf branches on it. This again is going to go flat onto my card base. And I like to just put it about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch from the border. Now, if you're like the snail or the seal, you can use that as well for your flat layering. For me, the Tombow liquid glue is the most economical and the most forgiving. Okay, so I've got my background going on. Now I'm going to build up my focal point. I've got a piece of basic white, and I am going to do some stamping. Excuse me. Let me take a break and take a sip. There we go. So basic beige ink, it's very light. I'm just going to use a little brush or a little, what am I thinking, a little branch from the stamp set. It's going to kind of peek out from those flowers. So really simple. Then I'm going to help myself out here for placement. I am going to have a small piece of paper. I'm going to apply at the base. This is from the previous pattern. The flip side is Mossy Meadow. This is going to go flat at the base of this layer. And I'll tell you, this is my guide to where to place my nice sentiment. Thanks for being you. I think it's a great sentiment. And I'm going to bring in that sentiment. Let's see it. I'm using the block that I was watercoloring with just a couple minutes ago. And you know what? I'm going to use my grid paper to make sure it's straight. So I've got a little line right here. I'm trying to have that being you aligned there. Then if I put it on my block, I should be safe for stamping straight. Let's hope. Nothing is more frustrating than getting done with your project and finding out, oh, something went kind of askew. Okay, so I'm gonna want this almost at the edge. And I'm gonna press down firmly. There we go. I'm happy. Thanks for being you. Let's add a little bit of ribbon texture. So this is a petal pink braided trim. It's kind of bulky, so I wouldn't really use it for tying a bow, but I do like it as a border. Now you might say, like, how are you going to get that on? I could put liquid glue there, but I'll tell you, my favorite way is take my tear and tape, and I'm just going to run a little strip across this layer. There we go. And that is going to hold on to the braided trim. And I will confess, sometimes that top layer is difficult to get off. Take your pick tool to help you remove it. There you go. Much easier. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply that. Now I kind of like it frayed a little at the edges, so just take your fingernail and flick it and bring that apart. Super sweet, right? Now this is going to get matted onto a piece of mossy meadow that's just the tiniest bit larger than our basic white layer. Right here, layer it up. All right, good morning, Sandy. All right, I've got two flowers going on. These are the die cuts I mentioned. They were cut with mossy meadow, and I also cut an extra flower. I cut one in petal pink and one in, this looks like Cajun craze. I am going to shape it a little bit because you can kind of see the stem that's coming out there. So I'm just going to come up and I'm going to use my little flower as a guide on where I'm going to trim it down. So there, and I'm doing the same with the soft petal pink flower. Simple. All right, let's apply a little adhesive here. We're just going to stick the flower right onto our mossy meadow die cut. All right, so let's go with our petal pink flower and our Cajun craze flower. So we have a nice mix. We've got a rich color going on with that Cajun craze, and then we have a soft petal pink. I am going to lay the Cajun craze flower at the back. So I'm going to just use some of my liquid glue. Stick that down, sort of at an angle, a little bit lower, there we go. And I don't want to cover, have to be extra careful, don't want to cover my sentiment. There we go, going right over that braided trim. Now the petal pink one is going to be popped up with a dimensional. So it's got a little bit of depth, and I'm going to put a, let's see, I better put it right to the edge. And to make sure it stays secure on my card, I'm going to add some glue just to place it down there. There we go. And again, I'm going to want to, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm clear for my sentiment. There we go. All right. Let's finish this. Actually, let's go ahead and put it on the card. We put our pattern background down. Now this is going to go flat again with my liquid glue. And I've got a nice border to show the coordinating pattern. Now I'm going to put a small bow around these flowers, these little stems. And remember I said this braided twine, this braided trim isn't really something to tie a bow with, but you can separate it. It's very easy to do. You can see the braid. I just took one of the braids. I'm going to take just two of the strands and tie a little bow. Now, how you tie your bow is totally up to you. You can do the rabbit ears or do the, I don't know, the way I tie my shoes. I don't do rabbit ears on my shoes. Anyway, totally up to you on how you want to do it. So to stick that on to my stem, I am going to grab a mini glue dot, and I'm not going to touch that glue dot. I'm going to go straight to my twine, remove that, bring it onto, there we go. And before we embellish the outside, we're going to go ahead and create the insert. And again, I've got the smaller insert, and I'm just going to take a snippet of the mossy meadow paper. So just bring that across. And the insert, again, you can stamp it with a little message if you have a stamp that you prefer, or this is a great greeting to just write a short note. Anyone that you want to reach out to. All right, here we go. And I'm going to have a nice wide border. Right. Let's talk about our embellishments. I'm going to bring in those same antique pearls. You can see my pearls on this card have a little bit of color, so I am going to take the pearls and I'm going to take a blending. This is dark timid tiger, which is actually the color that's in the paper, and I'm just going to take the brush tip and color my antique pearl so I can have coordinating embellishments. I'm going to bring in my take your pick. The blending brush is alcohol based, so it is fast drying. And then one more. All right, there you go. So what do you think about the thank you cards? Soft pastels or the darker hues? You can choose whichever you like with the die cuts. Great way to make use of the dies that are in this bundle. All right, next card we've got going on is just my everyday card. Very colorful, I'm thinking, because sometimes you just need to send out a card. This one says, hey, you made my day. Isn't that the sweetest? Perfect for cheering up a friend. So what we're going to be doing with this one is layering. We're going to do some coloring again, this time with our blends. And I've added some die cuts that are outside the bundle. These are from the party banners, but they do a really fun, festive look, those banners. So let's make this card. We've got, again, that's pretty color called Fresh Freesia and a deep color called Pretty Peacock. It's a standard card base. Let's go ahead and fold that up. Let me make sure I'm cleaning up after myself. Put these things away because I'm going to need them in a minute. All right, my foam folder to help me burnish the score line, 4 1/4, and my banners cut from the party banners. I've got one in the Pretty Peacock and one in the floral pattern that has the purples in it, and it's got a blue color as well. So lots more color going on this card. And lots of layers. Okay, that's the gist of this card. Lots of layering. They're pretty banners. The Fresh Freesia floral pattern. And again, look at that. Very little liquid glue. If you apply too much, you're going to get a sticky mess. There we go. And let's see. Set that aside for the time being. What I'm going to show you next, I have punched a circle from Basic White. This one measures 2 3/8. That's where I'm going to stamp my greeting. And I'm stamping in, again, Basic Black or Memento Black. And I'm going to start with my Hey, which comes from the stamp set. And right now I don't have to worry about alignment or placement because it's a circle. And then I'm going to add the You Made My Day. And I just want to have enough space. Let me go back to my reference card. I think it looks like I came off just a tiny bit. There we go. Now this is going to be placed onto my card base. This time I'm going to add my dimensionals on this layer, and I'm going to do that now. You probably know me if you've ever joined me for a class before. I try to add what I can to the card base so I don't lose it. It's happened once or twice. It drives me crazy. And it's going to be off to the side there. Hey, you made my day. Now, back to those die cuts, I do have a couple. Actually, I'm using one cut in Pretty Peacock. Again, this is from the bundle, but I am going to snip this large branch into two. So let's see, I'm going to come up, like so. And one is going to flow downward. And let's me snip off, well, so maybe like that. And maybe like that. We're not going to attach it yet. We're going to do our focal point flower. Let me share with you how I did that. So again, on basic white, this is the single little posy in the stamp set. We're going to stamp down basic black. This time we're adding our color with the blends. So there's lots of great ways to add color. You will find your preference. Blends are, they're usually very successful. They're easy to color with. They don't show the streaks. They are just soft and beautiful. They make everyone look like an artist. However, they can be pricey. So if you get one pair, the combo, I think it's about, let me think, $9 or $11. So if you want them in every color, it does start to add up. Having said that, they are a favorite for most people. I'm going to color my leaves first with Pool Party, which is a really soft, watery blue. And the combos have a light and a dark. I'm going to start with my light, and then I'm going to come in and just add a little bit of the dark for dimension. See how easy that comes through. Now, you will know these are the alcohol base. They do bleed to the second side. The flower itself, I'm going to start with a light fresh freesia, and I'm going to do the overall flower in fresh freesia. And I'm going to do this the same way I do the watercoloring. Everyone has a different artistic style. If you like to go right up to the outline and fill in all the white, then that's your prerogative. You do that. I like it more the watercolory effect. I'm going to bring in my dark fresh freesia and add some dimension. I'm going to come in from the center and just pull out some of the color. There's my flower coming along. And then finally, in the flower center, I'm going to go with a darker purple yet. This is light Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to do the same. Just going to pull out to the flower center. There you go. There's your little posy. Very pretty. If you have the cut and emboss machine, you can use the dies. If you don't, you can hand snip. I've got one pre-cut right here, so you don't have to watch me cut again. And I'm going to bring it in, and let's see where my little, let's do that. And I'm going to attach that with a mini glue dot again. So let me grab my mini glue dots. Let's see where I put them. Or not. Okay, so let's go with the liquid glue and just stick it on the back. And it's going to come, looks like, oh, this might be a different stem. And the top one, you know what, that's what the thing is. I used this one up on top. Got a little bit more spray out of it. Let's see. It's kind of like flower arranging. Just make sure that you like where everything is landing. You know what? Here we go. Anna Marie did it in 3 snips. So I got a lot of mileage from this one little branch. Right there. And bring it out the top. And then bring, oops. That's why my glue dot would be more helpful. Right here. And let's help myself. This is going to be popped up with the dimensional. So let's bring in the dimensional and it's kind of, I step on it and there you go. Now it's stuck, right? I've got my final little trim, my little clipping, and let's see, that's going to go right like so. Let's get another dimensional and attach it. And then we'll attach this to our card front right over our sweet little greeting. Hey, you made my day. Love it. Okay, let's do our insert same way. That basic white, oops, that one has a smudge on it. I'm going to use that side. And then I'm going to add the patterned snippet there. Apply with the liquid glue. And then trim it down. This is the sweetest sentiment, I think. And these are the words we need to say, and a lot of times we don't say them. That card makes the connection a little easier, I think. Sometimes we're shy about expressing that, but a card is a great way to say those words. Wouldn't you love getting this card in the mail after a long week? Who could use a little boost like this? Who in your life? Let's add our embellishments. Let's see, here we go, our antique pearls. And this time you can see I'm going to coordinate with my purple card. I'm going to bring in my darkest blend, which was the Blackberry Bliss. And let's see, I've got three right here I'm going to color. So we are just coordinating our color and accessories so easily. Again, let me clean up. Are you a messy stamper? Oh my goodness, my craft table it's just a disaster sometimes. I am so messy. I just have to keep reminding myself, clean up after yourself. Clean up, put it away. All right, there we go. And I'm trying to do that now. Let's bring in our embellishments. We're gonna grab one right underneath. Now the trick with the embellishments, they have a glue dot already attached to them, so you need to dig underneath. Make sure you get that glue dot. Otherwise, it's not gonna stick. There we go. Hey, you made my day. Love it. Okay, so let's bring in all three cards. One. That was card number 2. Where's card number 1? My simple and pretty. Card number 2 and card number 3. There you have it. These Charming Day cards. They're more than just the paper and ink. They're the keepsakes that say I care about you. They're just the connection we need. Now, I'd love to help you make these too. Here's how. If you place a $50 order with me in my online store by September 1st, I'll send you the Charming Class kit for free. It includes all the pre-cut supplies and all the step-by-step, and it'll be delivered right to your doorstep. Place the order by September 1st. Make sure you're shopping with me. I'll put a shopping link at the top of this post. Thank you. I love that you enjoyed these cards too. I think the Charming Day bundle is super sweet. It's very versatile. You can do lots with it. So thanks for spending part of your day with me. Until next time, I invite you to create a card, send a card, and make someone's day. Bye.